dedicated account manager. I'm your dedicated account manager here at Mango Languages. So I am sharing my contact information with you guys. So in case you do have a question and you want to reach out to me directly, you can do that. And I'm also going to have the same page at the end. So in case you forgot to write down my phone number or my contact information, you can do that at the very end as well. But today, basically what I'm going to do is that I'm going to give you a quick demo of the program and then also highlight some of the key learning features that we have available with Mango. And at the end of the demo, depending, if we have time, I would like to also show you how to access and use some of the special features that we have available. And that includes, we're going to talk a little bit about it next, but family, we have a family profiles, we have a vocabulary feature, we have a Mango reader feature as well. So if we have time at the end, I would like to show you how those works as well, so that way you can be familiar with them. But for today's presentation, I thought we could start with basically giving you you as a patron, the patron's point of view of how it is to access Mango through your library. So I'm going to start with the library's website, and we're going to go to the login screen. So this is the library's website. If you go to Learn and Explore, it's going to take you to this page. And if you scroll down under Discover what your library has to offer for learning and enjoying, you're going to find Geography, Culture, and Languages. So when you click there, that's going to take you to learn a world language with Mango Languages. So if you click there, this is going to take you here where you can enter your library card number and also your PIN. Or I believe the other way that is going to show for you. Did you see my screen change, by the way? I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Yes, we can see the login page for Pierce County Library System.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. It's going to take you here. So here you basically have the option to either log in if you are an existing user and you already have an account, or you can also sign up to create an account and a new profile with Mango as a new user. So when you go here, all we require basically is a simple email and password combination, and then also your library card number. So that's what we're going to require for you. And this is just for the first time when you first start with Mango and you want to create a profile, right? The other thing that we have available here is that you can use Mango as a guest. So let's say, you're like, I don't know if I want to create an account, another account that I need to worry about and, try to remember the password. I want to see if I even like it before I commit to making a profile, right? So you can use Mango as a guest. Again, all we're going to ask you for is the library card number. But once you give us your library card number, you're going to have access to basically the whole program. So you can see how it works. You can click on anything. So that way you can see, if you like it, or if you don't like it, you don't have to create an account. But if you do like it, you can use it as anonymously as a guest, and then you can create an account, right? One thing to keep in mind, though, is that it doesn't keep track of your progress until you create an account, right? A lot of people get confused with these and they're like, well, I already give you my library card number, I create an account. And it's like, no, you have to create an actual account with the, email, password combination, and then your library card, and then that's how you create officially an account. So don't forget to create an account, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, I used it and I finished 3 sessions and I went back and it didn't save my progress. That's why, because you were using it as a guest. So anyways, we do have the option though in there if you do want to use it. It is a great way to just kind of check it out and see how it works. Once you create an account, all you have to do is just enter your email, username, and password, and you'll be able to access Mango. The other thing that we have in here is information about our app store. So as you probably already know, you can also download the Mango app. We have it available in the App Store with iOS and also with Android with the Google Play. You should be able to go search for Mango Languages and you'll be able to download the app. Once you have an account, again, all you have to do is also just put your username and password once you download the app, and you'll be able to access Mango through the app as well. Any questions so far about logging in, how to access it through the library?
No questions in the meeting room.
No questions. All right. Are you able to see now my new screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. So once you log in, a new user will be prompted to, if you were already, or sorry, a new user will be prompted. I'm showing you how it will be if you were an assistant user. A new user will be prompted to select a language, right? So if you haven't used Mango before, you're going to be it's going to first ask you to select a language, but a returning user is going to take you basically where, the last language that you were learning. So in this case, the last language that I was trying to learn was the Latin American course, and that's why it took us there. So as you can see, I'm in the Spanish Latin American course because it says right here on the top left-hand corner of your screen. And if you want to go back to see all the languages that we have available, you just have to click on this icon here, and that's going to take you back to where we have the language selection menu, which is where you will start if you are a new user. So your top 5 most recent courses, let's say you've been learning Mango for a while, you've been using Mango for a while, your most recent courses are going to be listed at the very top. And then right at the bottom, we do have the most popular courses. So these are the 10 most popular courses that we have available with Mango. And then right underneath that, if you keep scrolling, you have all the other languages that we have available. So we do have 70 different languages right now that you can pick from, and they're all listed here in alphabetical order. We also have, not that you need to learn English, but, for those who do need to learn English, we do have 20 different English courses as well. And they're all narrated by, the mother tongue. So if you are, for instance, let's click on it. If you are a Spanish speaker, let's say, and you're trying to learn English, you can select a specific Spanish the specific English course that we have for Spanish speakers, or the specific English course that we have for Russian speakers, or so on. So that's a good thing. If you have any friends, maybe that then would like to learn English with Mango, you can show them that, and they will be able to hopefully learn English using their mother tongue, their native language, right? All right, so let's go back here. So for some of the other languages, we also have multiple dialects. So for instance, for Arabic, we have 4 of those multiple dialects. So we have the Egyptian one, we have Iraqi one, Levantine, and then we also have the modern standard one. And then for other languages like French, let me go to French. We do have the standard one, which is the Parisian French. And then we also have the French Canadian one, which is the Quebecois. Let's see what else. Okay, so let's go back now. I'm just trying to make sure I don't forget anything. Let's go back to the Spanish Latin American course here, because I wanted to show you a few things that I wanted to highlight here. So at the very top left-hand corner right here, we do have this resume learning button. And this basically allows you to pick up right where you left off. So right now we're looking at the web version of Mango, but like I mentioned before, we do have the apps. We have the iOS, and then we also have the Android apps, right? So basically this resume learning button is going to allow you to sync, like let's say you're learning with, the desktop version of Mango, and you maybe finish a few sessions and you decide, maybe tomorrow I'm going to pick up where I left off, but with the app. So basically, once you get to the app, if you click on this resume learning button, it's basically going to save where you left off and pick up where you left off with the app or whatever other device that you're using. So it's syncing everything together to allow you to use all the platforms and pick up where you left off. So that's what the resume learning button does for you. Right underneath that, we have the daily review section. So the way it works is that as you're moving through the course, key concepts are going to be pulled and put into the review system that we have here. And basically, the daily review system has what we call a space repetition algorithm inside of it. So what that means is that it's going to either speed up or slow down based on your ability to learn specific concepts in the things that you're learning throughout the chapters, right? So it also gives you the right amount of repetition that you're going to need when you're learning a new language. And right underneath that, we do have a placement test option as well. So for those of you who, maybe let's say you had maybe a little bit of either high school or college Spanish, and you're trying to pick up where you left off, you're trying to learn some Spanish, but you don't know where to start, right? Because you're like, I already know a little bit. I probably shouldn't start with chapter 1. It's going to be too easy for me, but I don't know where to start. If you take the placement test is basically going to give you a recommendation of where to start within the course. So that way, based on your score, it might recommend you to start maybe with like, I don't know, maybe chapter 3 or maybe chapter 2. So that way you don't have to start at the beginning, and it will give you a recommendation of where to start. And if you don't like where it's recommending you to start, you can start anywhere else. But I highly recommend taking that placement test because it's a good option to kind of start with that. All right. And then right underneath that, we do have the main units of content. So this is where all the chapters, for the course lives. And right underneath that, we do have sorry, I got over a cold, so I might have to cough here and there. Right below that, we do have our specialty courses. And these courses, the specialty courses, we have it for the top 10 languages. And these are basically smaller units with additional content that are built around specific topics such as tech stock, romance, business. We do have a Spanish for librarians specialty course. We have legal. So these are things that, if you want to learn specific things in this language, in Spanish, you can learn those specific words that you're going to be able to need to maybe talk a little bit about legal in Spanish, or a little bit about medical things in Spanish, right? So the Spanish for librarians, and this is more for the librarians at the library, it talks about specific vocabulary and phrases that you need to know to, for example, help your Spanish speaking patrons at the library, right? So those can be very useful, but however, we do recommend you to first start with the main use of content up here. And then once you're done with those, move on to the specialty courses, because they tend to be a little bit harder and more specific on things. So if you're really new to Spanish and you're just learning, those can be a little bit difficult maybe for you to go over if you start with those. So that's the only thing that we recommend you to start with the main use of content. All right. Any questions so far? No questions?
No questions in the meeting room yet.
Okay, perfect. All right. So let's go back and talk a little bit more about these main units of content now. Okay. So as you can see, we have 5 for Spanish. We have 5 of those main units of content. And this is basically, like I mentioned before, is what makes the core language learning content, right? This is where we have everything that you need to learn. And as you can see here, we broke down those main units of content into little chapters. And then those chapters are broken down in smaller 10 to 30-minute lessons. So here's the chapter 1, chapter 2, and then we have 7 of those little bit-sized lessons within each chapter. And you also notice that at the end of each chapter, we also have listening and reading activities. And this basically helps you reinforce what you have learned throughout each chapter. And then we also have a recap at the end of the lessons. And the chapter recap basically allows you to quickly get back to speed on a chapter after maybe, let's say you took a little break, maybe you finish a chapter and then a week later, you're like, oh my God, I don't remember what I learned in the previous chapter. And now I have to start chapter number 2. You can do the chapter recap, and that's basically going to help you hopefully, give you a little refresher and remember what you learned in the previous chapter before you move on. The other thing that you see here is also a vocabulary option, and that's basically going to give you a recap of all the vocabulary that you learn or that you need to go over for what you learned throughout the chapter as well. So, and I'm going to show you in a little bit another place where you can also access this vocabulary, but this is another way that you can access your vocabulary for the chapter. All right, so as you go through the course, you're going to also learn, useful language skills after each lesson. So as you can see here, some of these topics that we have are very practical. So for example, for chapter 1, we have you're going to learn about salutations and small talk, and then about language and origins. And then as you move on to chapter 2, you're going to unit 2. I'm sorry, you're going to learn about places and directions, and currency and counting, food and drink culture, transportation, and so on, right? So you can see that we do it in a more practical way, using also real life, everyday conversations that are going to be very useful for you as you learn a new language, and things that you actually need to learn in order to communicate, right? In your new language. So We're actually going to start the demo now. This is just me trying to show you, what you can find in each language in the courses. But I also want to, right now, I actually want to jump into a demo so you can see how the courses are built and some of the key features that I want to point out as you're learning a new language. So for the demo, I actually need a participant. I need someone to basically, volunteer to be a participant. And I'm only going to ask you a few questions and it's not going to be painful. So who wants to volunteer for that?
I will volunteer.
All right. And this is not going to be for Spanish. This is going to be for Japanese, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. Does anyone in this room speak Japanese? I guess that's the first
Nope, I
question.
got head shakes all around.
What was that?
We have head shakes all around, so no one
Okay.
here speaks Japanese.
Perfect. And that's the reason why we normally do pick Japanese for our demos, because there's people that speak obviously Japanese and they're or learning Japanese, but it's easier to find someone that is learning Spanish than Japanese. So Japanese is a great language to use for the demo. So like I said, I'm only going to ask a few questions as we go through the demo. It's not going to be painful. So, all right. So let's get started. So let's go and jump to Unit 1, and then we're in Chapter 1, and then Lesson 1. All right. So each chapter is going to start basically with a set of goals, right? So here we have our conversation goals, and then we also have our grammar goals. And they're basically listed at the beginning of each chapter to set expectations of what you're going to learn throughout each chapter, right? So as you can see, some of the conversation goals that we're going to learn are going to be to express gratitude and greet people. And then for today's presentation, we're actually going to focus on one of the grammar notes that we see here, and that is to form a yes or no question in Japanese. So keep that in mind, because it's going to be very important at the very end when we're done with the demo. So each chapter also begins with a full conversation in the target language. So what you're going to see in the next slide is going to be a full conversation between two native Japanese speakers. And throughout the chapter, you're going to learn to have this conversation that you're going to see here in a little bit, and also other conversations just like it, surrounding the theme of the chapter. So let's move forward and listen to the conversation so you can see what I'm talking about.
Listen to the following conversation.
こんにちは。いい天気ですね。
ええ、本当に。観光ですか？
ええ、そうです。
気をつけて。
ありがとうございます。じゃあ、さようなら。
さようなら。
All right. Were you able to hear that? Fine?
Yeah. Yep.
Perfect. All right. So did anyone recognize anything that we heard in this conversation? Any words that you're like, oh, that sounds familiar. I've heard that word before.
Yeah, same. Konnichiwa.
こんにちは。いい天気ですね。
All right, perfect. So as you can see, just want to show you very quickly, you can, if you're, if you're like, I recognize the word, or I want to listen to it again, I didn't quite get what they were pronouncing or saying, you can always click on each individual phrase here, and you'll be able to hear it.
さようなら。
Or you can replay the entire thing. You can also, like, as is playing, you can also pause it or play it at any time. And then we also have the way to, a way to go back or to the next slide as well. So I just wanted to show you that. All right. So believe it or not, like I said, right, if we were to go through the whole, with this whole chapter, with the whole content and listen to the whole content, by the end, you will be able to understand this conversation and then also other conversations just like this one, right? So now I'm going to skip ahead. We're going to get out of here. We're going to go to lesson 4. And I want to highlight a particular sequence that we like to use to basically show you how the program works here. So again, we have those grammar notes. We have the conversation notes listed at the beginning of each chapter. So let's go and click to the next slide.
Now, let's learn. Are you sightseeing? Ready?
観光ですか？
Let's hear it again.
観光ですか？
All right, so this is where everything begins. So, what are some of the first things that you notice visually when you're looking at these, when it comes to the text? When you're looking at the text, what are some of the things that comes up to you and that you're like, oh, That's interesting.
The color coding.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So they're color coding, right? Both the English words and the Japanese words are color coded. So what do you think those colors mean?
I think it means that the associated color, like the word R in pink, and then the pink words in Japanese are the same word.
Okay, yes, perfect. So words of the same color have the same meaning, right? So this is what we call our semantic color mapping. And all of the lessons are color coded in both the source and the target language, so that you can easily see, you know, which words I can't talk anymore, correlate with each other. And it also helps you visualize the order of the words and the word grouping in the new language that you're learning, right? So what do you think? You kind of already say this, but what do you think, you know, these blue grouping of characters mean then? Right here.
Fighting.
All right, yeah. And then the pink, you already said that correlates with the R, right? Okay, so perfect. Yeah, so can you, let's say, you know, if I ask you if you can read these in Japanese for me, can you do it?
Sightseeing.
Oh, in Japanese.
Oh, I would need to hear it played again.
Okay, yeah. Okay, what about now?
Kanko.
Kanko, okay, yes. So if you hover over each word, right? So you don't click on it, you just go over it, you're going to be able to see the phonetic pop-ups. So as you can see, each word here, right, has a phonetic pop-up and is interacted. Phonetic pop-ups, just like the ones that you see here, are available throughout the whole course. So every time you run into, you know, the target language, you can just hover over the word and you're going to be able to see how to pronounce it. All right. Also, if you click on each individual word, you're going to be able to hear a native speaker pronounce the word at a more slower, more articulate pace to help you with the pronunciation. So you can see how they pronounce it, and then that way you can practice. So now I'm going to click on each individual word, and I want you to repeat after. Can you do that for me?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
観光
Kanko.
です。
This.
か
Ka.
All right, perfect. All right. So now that we were able to practice at a slower pace, I'm going to click on this like it's not a microphone, the speaker icon here, and we're going to be able to see it at a more natural conversational pace. So I'm going to click on it, and I want to see if you can repeat the whole thing afterwards, okay?
観光ですか
Kanko desu ka?
Perfect. Okay. So again, you know, if you click on each individual one, you're going to be able to hear it at a more slower pace. And then if you click here on the what do we say that this was
Speaker.
speaker, thank you. You're going to be able to hear at a more, you know, conversation, more natural pace, right?
観光ですか観光ですか
All right, perfect. And to go even more in depth, if you really care about your pronunciation, you're like, hey, I'm not pronouncing something correctly. I don't know what I'm doing. I would like to practice it more and go more in depth. You can use our voice comparison tool. So this is the little microphone thing, the button that you see here. If you click there, it's going to take you to this page. And here basically is going to allow you to record yourself saying the phrase or the word that you're practicing. And then you're going to be able to compare it to the native speaker's audio. And then you can hear both of them at the same time, and you'll be able to see where you might not be hitting the right pronunciation, or, you know, if you're not pronouncing something correctly. So for this one, I'm going to do it just because it's easier. I noticed that when I'm doing the demos, it's easier for me to do it. So let's listen to the audio of the native speaker.
観光ですか
So that's the native speaker. I'm going to try to record myself here. Kanko desu ka? And then you can actually drag it, so that way you can try to, you know, align it with the pronunciation of the native speaker. And we can already see, right, just by even just the waves, the voice waves, you can see it that I'm not pronouncing something correctly here. But let's put it like that, and let's listen to the native speaker again.
観光ですか
Let's listen to my pronunciation.
観光ですか?
And then you can go and play both of them at the same time. So, you know, if you still want to practice it and see where you might not be, like I said, you might not be hitting the right pronunciation, you can listen to both of them at the same time.
観光ですか?
So again, that is a great tool if you really want to, you know, get the pronunciation or the accent right. And it's a very useful tool that I highly recommend. Any questions about that?
No questions. That seems great though. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people don't know about that tool, and then every time I show it, I feel like they're you know they think it's a very cool tool that they can use, and people use it. But I feel like it's easy to, you know, to just miss it because it's just kind of here. So I wanted to show you guys that. All right. So as you continue to navigate throughout the slides, you know, you're going to see an entire learning process, and this includes teaching slices, quiz slices that we have too. And then we also have memory building exercises. So let's move forward so you can see basically how that works and how they look like, okay? So let's go to the next slide. Yeah, slide number 3.
Now, let's learn how to say sightseeing.
観光
Listen closely one more time.
観光
All right. So
観
we
光
have the word Kanko here. So as you can see here, we start basically to break the sentence down into pieces, right? So we were first introduced to this word on the previous slide, and now we're getting a chance to practice this word on its own, right? So next, we're going to see a quiz slide. So let's move forward.
Let's hear you say sightseeing.
All right, so do you remember how to say sightseeing?
Kanko.
観光
All right.
Is that right?
This is basically repetition, right, of what we have learned. So repetition is the key to everything, right? So we were first introduced to this word, then you were able to repeat it immediately, and then now we have a quiz slide here, right? So this is to combat what we call the forgetting curve. So not only in language learning, but with everything, right, that we learn in life. If we say something once, we have the tendency to forget it, right? But if we say something multiple times and we try to remember it, right, you'll be much more likely to remember that. So what we're doing here is that we're committing this information to our long-term memory. So that way you can actually start learning the language and start learning some of these words. So I'm going to skip ahead to the slide number 7. And I want you to repeat, you know, what you see next.
Here's how to say, are you?
ですか
Let's hear that again.
ですか
All right.
ですか
Can you repeat that?
Deska.
Jessica. All right. So here we start breaking down the conversation again, right? So again, piece by piece, we start breaking the conversation. And we have an example of a teaching slide. And can anyone guess what the word ka means? So ka is this word right here. Can you guess what that means? What does it correlate with?
Questioning.
Exactly, right? So the question for us in English is pink, and then the word ka here in Japanese is pink. So that's a question mark, right? So from the semantic color mapping, you know, we're seeing that are you sightseeing in Japanese? They really are, they say sightseeing are you? That's what they really are saying, right? Sightseeing are you? Also, the word ka correlates with a question mark, meaning that ka is a question word in Japanese. So we don't actually have this concept in English, right? So we might be a little bit confused, you know, about what we're seeing here. So in the next slide, we're going to see a grammar note that provides us with a little more explanation for what we're learning here. So that way we're not confused about it. So we're going to play the next slide so you can see how that looks like.
The little word
あ
at the end of
ですか
is a particle that turns the statement into a question. Question marks are not necessary in Japanese, as long as the particle
あ
is at the end of the sentence. You'll often find English question marks in Japanese comic books and other casual writings, but they are strictly optional. Even though
か
is a word, not a punctuation mark, we will show it in the same color as the question mark at the end of the sentence.
All right. So like I said, you know, we don't actually have this concept in English. So we might be a little bit confused, right? So grammar notes like this one that you see here, you know, they're built into each lesson. And while a lot of the grammar we learn, you know, throughout the course without even realizing it, we do have language specific grammar notes just like this one. Every time, you know, we feel like one is necessary, so we can clarify, you know, the structure of what you're learning, so that way you're not confused about it. So here, you know, we have a very extensive grammar note, you know, explaining that ka is in fact a question word, and like a, you know, like I said, we will have this every time we need an explanation, and every time they're going to be written in plain, simple language, so that way you're able to understand and you're able to, you know, learn all this grammar that you need to learn with the new language that you're learning. So just like the other thing, just like everything else in Mango, every single word in the target language is interactive. So if you click on all these, you know, purple words, all the highlighted words in Japanese, you're going to be able to see the pronunciation, and also you're going to be able to listen to it.
かですかか
All right. Okay, so now in the next slide, we're going to see how we're basically slowly going to start putting everything together, right? We're going to start putting all the pieces together. So let's go to slide number 9.
Nice. Now practice saying, are you?
All right. Do you remember how to say are you?
Deska.
ですか
All right, perfect. Okay. All right, let's go to slide number 10.
Let's hear you say, sightseeing.
All right, do you remember how to say sightseeing?
Hanko.
Hanko,
観
perfect.
光
Perfect.
観光
All right, and we're going to skip the next slide. We're going to go to number 12.
Nice. Now practice saying, are you?
Again, do you remember how to say are you?
Deska.
ですか
All right. And then in the next slide, you're going to see how we're going to put everything together. Ready?
Here's a challenge. Say, are you sightseeing?
All right.
So it's Hanko Deska.
観光ですか
All right.
観光ですか
So on the des, it shows a U in the phonetic part, but I'm not hearing it. I just hear DES. That's
me.
Yes, yes. In that, let me see. So we're in slide number 13. So let me just highlight where we left off here, because I do have an explanation for that. Hold on a second
Good.
here. Let me highlight this so I know where I left off. All right. So I was told the explanation for Deska is that normally when we create, you know, phonetics, we write them. So normally when we create phonetics, we write them in English for the speaker to be able to pronounce it. But there are a few languages that have their own romanization of the language. So it is written for an English speaker to be able to understand how to read it. Japanese is one of the languages that we call that Romanji, a Romanji language. And that little U, so our U, the little U there is a slight U soft sound that you can't really hear it. So we just pronounce it as a desk. Because that was a question, right? With the desk?
Yeah.
With a little U, yeah. So it's a very soft U sound that you can't really hear it, but we just pronounce it as desk, and it has to do with that, you know, with the pronunciation for us English speakers, and how Japanese is a Romanji language. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's just I was seeing what I present as a 2-syllable word and I was hearing a 1-syllable.
Yeah. And again, we have it because it helps us with the pronunciation as English
Okay.
speakers. But it is a very soft I'm sure that if we were to, like, you know, slow it down, you will be able to just hear maybe at the very end, but it's a very soft U sound that if when you're, you know, pronouncing things at a conversation pace, it's hard to hear it. And that sounds like you're not pronouncing it, but it's a very soft U sound. So there's a lot of things like
So
that with
near
English,
silent
with the
vowel.
English language. I'm sorry?
So it's like a near silent vowel, like if you were to
Exactly.
say the word maze, it has an E at the end, but it's.
Exactly. There's
quiet.
a lot of that too with French, the French language. There's a lot of, yeah, with English as well. And in Japanese, that's the explanation for that as well.
So for the written representation of this Japanese sentence, the word you is actually the little circle at the end.
Exactly. Well, and remember with the, I'm trying to, I think, I'm pretty sure that is part of the, I'm going ahead here. That is part of the culture note that we're going to hear actually in a few minutes here. And it will explain why you're not actually pronouncing the word you in here. So you're thinking ahead of the game here, but there's an explanation for that. But yes, let's move forward and you're going to see the explanation for that. Okay, so let me go back to where we were. So we were in slide number 13. Okay, here we are. Okay. All right. So you were able to pronounce, are you sightseeing right? Perfect. Okay. So now we're going to introduce you, the next slide, we're going to introduce you to a new phrase. And again, we have broken down piece by piece, the structure, and then we build it back up together. But if we were to stop here, right, you're only going to be able to ask this particular question. Are you sightseeing, right? So we're going to introduce you to a new phrase in the next slide. So you can start basically playing with the learning structure that we show you here and start basically practice how, critical thinking exercises and how critical thinking plays a huge role in Mango's methodology. So you can see how everything starts working together and how we expand your ability to use what you're learning with your new language. Okay, so let's go to the new slide and introduce you to the new word that you're going to be learning.
Here's how you would say a walk.
散歩
All right, can you repeat that?
散歩
Sampo.
All right, perfect. Let's go to the next slide. 15, yeah.
Now try and say a walk.
Okay, so this is just a little quiz.
Sampo.
散歩
Some
散歩
perfect. All right, and then in the next one,
Using what you've learned, see if you can figure out how to say, are you taking a walk?
all right, so try to remember, like I mentioned, the sentence structure that we learned at the beginning.
So would it be? What's the word for walk? I'm
散
sorry.
歩ですか
Sorry, you ran out of time. I couldn't pause it. Sample,
散歩
that's a new word that we learned, right?
です
Yes.
か
Sampo deska. Yes.
Yeah.
So, like I said, even though you haven't learned how to say, are you taking a walk, right? You were able to basically create this sentence all on your own by thinking about the sentence structure that you learn at the beginning. And then you're basically able to put all this together and then learn how to say, are you taking a walk in Japanese? So this is what we call our critical thinking exercises, right? So critical thinking exercises, just like this one here, can be found all throughout the whole course. And basically the program takes things that you have previously learned, like words and grammar concepts, and then tries to make you put them together in a different way to expand your ability to learn the new words and new things that you learn in your new language. So this is really starting to get to the heart of Mango's methodology. Like I said, the metaphor that we like to use is Legos versus puzzle pieces. So let's think about that, right? So in a puzzle, much like when you're learning, when you're memorizing words and phrases in language learning, the pieces only fit in one spot, right? But with Legos, you can follow the instructions to build maybe a spaceship. Maybe you're also building, a pirate ship or a car. But then you can also use the same pieces to build something else, to build something completely different, right? So when you begin to learn the structure in your new language, you can begin to think more creatively as well, and then play with the same structure and with the new words that you're learning. So you can see here that we've learned, the deska structure for are you taking are you sightseeing, I'm sorry, and also for are you taking a walk. But as we build our vocabulary, we should be able to play with the same structure and plug and play within, the structure that we learn so we can expand our ability to learn in the new language. All right. So if you remember the grammar note that I mentioned at the beginning of the chapter, we talked about how we were going to learn to ask the question yes or no in Japanese, right? Using the verb to be. So just after a few minutes, you're able to now do that, and you're also starting to speak in Japanese. So here's where the cultural, I can talk today. The cultural note comes next, right? So after these, we were going to see a culture note that is going to explain a little bit about the you that you were asking about that correlates with this little dot in here. So I'm going to play the next slide, and you're going to see why.
Japanese people prefer to communicate using as few words as possible. They omit what they can imply. That is why Japanese sentences often seem to consist of bare essentials. For instance, to say, "Are you taking a walk?" in Japanese, all you need is the noun,
散歩
a walk,
です
and the little word
か
that marks the sentence as a question. Simple, isn't it?
All right. So like I point out here that in English we say, "Are you taking a walk?" But in Japanese we say "walk are," right? So then this cultural note, we basically learn why it is so important to know the culture of the language that you're learning. And this is another slide where we're learning something very important about the language that you're learning. So this, the cultural notes also play a huge part of the learning process. So if here at Mango, we think that if you don't understand the culture and the language that you're learning, you're not going to be able to, communicate properly. So we do have a lot of cultural notes, just like this one again here, to, learn that you can learn some of the culture of the language that you're learning. And you can see, throughout the program, a lot of the cultural notes, just like this one, to understand not just the culture, but also the people who speak the language that you're learning. Okay, any questions so far? Any questions about why the phrase in Japanese is so short and it doesn't include the word you?
Makes sense.
All right, okay. So that is it for the actual time area. Okay, so we still have 15 minutes. So that is it for the actual demo. There's a few things that I do want to point out here. So for instance, if you go to the right top hand corner, if you go to settings, so it looks like this circle here, that is going to take you to the course settings. And this is where you can turn on or off a few things. So we do have a narrator. If you are sick of the narrator, you don't want to hear anymore, you can turn it on or off. We also have the closed captions that you can turn on or off, and that is in compliance with the ADA. And you can also turn off or on if the quizzes, if you just need more time to when you see a quiz slide, you can also turn on or off the timer if you want to do that. The other thing we have in here is if you want to go back to the language list or out of the lesson, you can just click on this X that you see here on the top left-hand corner. That will take you back to the main language course. And then here you can, there's a few other things that I want to show you, but I'm going to show it to you actually in Spanish. So let's go back to the Spanish Latin American course. If you go to the Explore tab, we have a few Mango movies. We have Mango movies. If you're looking for those, this is where you can find the Mango movies. So the reason why I wanted to show you Spanish is because for Japanese, we only have one. For Spanish, we have 3. And every language has different amounts of movies. It just depends on, how many movies we have at that rights to show you. But if you ever want to if you ever want to watch some of these Mango movies that we have available here, you can go to Explore Mango Movies, and then these are the ones that we have available. Once you click there, it has information about the movie, and then once you play, did it change to the new screen, by the way? I just want to make sure.
Yes, it did.
Okay, perfect. You do have two options to watch those Mango movies. The first one is the movie mode, which is just like as if you were, watching something on Netflix or any of the movie streaming platforms that you might have, where you can also just have like the subtitles at the bottom. The engage mode, however, that's the other option that we have available here, and that is the way to interact with what you're seeing. So you're going to have the subtitles, but then you'll be able to click on it just like with the mapping option that we have, the color mapping. You're going to be able to click on the words. You're going to be able to listen to them with the pronunciation. And again, it's just going to be a more interactive way of watching the movie. It's slower, but it will be a great way to learn some of, like I said, more vocabulary, just a fun way to learn a new language, right? So definitely recommend the Mango movies. It's a great way to learn about the culture of the language that you're learning, and it's also a fun way to learn the language. Let's go back. Let's go back here. We also, under the Explore, we do have interactive reading passages. These are new, something that we recently started adding. And these are just different links to, either a blog or things like that we think that you might want to learn about the language that, that you're learning. So, if you want to learn about the tango dance, there's things about football in here. But this is just again a new and great way to learn, the culture, the language, new vocabulary words, and there's things in here that it's been already curated for you to use. We also tell you how many words you're going to be learning, what level the article might be in. So, for instance, if you want something a little harder, you might want to read an article that's a little more advanced. And again, it's just a new way of learning a language and practice things, right? Under vocabulary, this is where the other place that, remember I was telling you, like at the end of each chapter, we have an option there to click on your vocabulary. You can also go to the vocabulary tab that we have here, and this is the other way to access the Mango vocabulary. This is the daily review system. Like I said, this is part of vocabulary. If you want to go in there, that's basically the words that you're learning as you're going through the chapters and the lessons. So you can practice that if you would like to. Or if you, as you can see, we also have other vocabulary lists in here for you as well. So we have the basics, we have numbers, days of the week, colors. So this is more like supplemental vocabulary that you can also pick from. We're constantly adding new things in here. So there's new words, new things that you can learn in here. So we have the Mango vocabulary, we have supplemental vocabulary, and the new thing that we have that we recently added is my vocabulary. So under my vocabulary, what was the question?
Where it says cards, are they like different, like slides?
For which one? My Mango or my vocabulary?
What if you look at even classroom objects, it says 32 cards, is that like a slide?
So you have the option with all these vocabulary that you see here, you have an option to either have a list, right? As you can see here, a list of words that you're learning, or you can also learn with a flashcards.
Let's learn how to say, good job.
So if
Buen trabajo.
So if you like to learn more like flashcard mode, you're going to be able to see just a flashcard, and you can go through the next.
Okay, now try to say, good job.
Or if you like to see a list. Oh, let's go back here. Exit. Or if you would like to see a list and you want to learn more like this, then you can see a list of the words that you're learning. And then again, you can click on each one of them.
¿Cómo se dice?
And then also, if you want to learn from English to Spanish, you can do that, or you can go from Spanish to English, right? So then you're only going to be able to see the Spanish, and then you're going to try to guess what it is in English.
Buen trabajo.
And then you can reveal the answer.
Buen trabajo.
So we do have all those modes for all the vocabulary that you're going to be learning with Mango. Any other questions about that? Okay.
For-
So same thing when you're going to my vocabulary. If you go there, this is basically allowing you to create whatever vocabulary list you want, right? So I just created some in here, but I mean, there's probably fruits. I think there's actually fruits right now under, maybe not. I thought maybe fruits was one of the things that we had in here. But let's say, you know, you're listening to a new song and you want to learn the lyrics of the song. So you created your vocabulary based on, you know, some of the words that you have in the song, or you create, you know, like I said, I created one here for fruits. Once you start your list, you can label it as, you know, whatever it is. In this case, it's fruits. You can go to add another one. So here we have orange, naranja. You can add another one, a new car. So let's just say we want to learn how to say in English pineapple. All right. So if we want to add this one, we go to save and add a new car, or we can just go to, you know, if we're done with that. So now we have pineapple and we have orange. So again, you can either practice them, like I said, you know, from English to Spanish on a list.
Naranja. Piña.
Or go to Spanish. Not that. To listen to it. Why is it not working?
Naranja.
There you go. Or we can go to practice with flashcards.
Now try and say orange. Naranja.
And like, as you can see, that's the other thing that I forgot to show you. If for some reason, let's say you got this wrong, you can say, no, I didn't get it. I didn't get it right. So you can say no, and it will keep track.
Now try to say pineapple.
It will keep track of what you're getting right and what you're getting wrong. So the ones that you're getting wrong, you'll get them more often. So that way, again, you know, with the whole committing things to our long-term memory, right? We want to make sure that you're going to learn it. So you're going to keep seeing it more often until you get it right. If you get it right multiple times, then you're, you know, our absorption is going to be like, okay, they already know this word. But if you keep getting it wrong, then we're going to give it to you so you can practice it more. So it keeps track of all those things for you. And again, this is a really good feature because it allows you to also just create your own vocabulary. Any questions about that?
So with this, what you're saying is you can enter words that may not already be included in the class lineup. So if you think of words outside of what you've already learned, you can create that list, and that's how you would learn those new words that may not automatically.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, if it's not part of the Mango chapters, you know, the course that you're learning, if you can find it here, you know, as some of the lists that we created for you, if you can't find any of those words there and you're like, hey, I don't see anywhere, but I want to learn this, you can create your own. So this gives you an infinity amount of words that you can, you know, that you can learn in the language that you're in the targeted language that you're learning. This is great for like, especially for kids as well, you know, when you're, you know, if they're part of, you know, if maybe they're learning Spanish at school, let's say, and they have a specific thing that they're learning in school, and they're also using Mango to practice that language at home, they can create whatever list they learn in school and practice it with Mango languages as well. So yeah, but you can create whatever, you know, we had in examples that we had actually a guy that was in construction work, and he was learning Spanish. I think it was the language that he was learning. He wanted to know how to, he wanted to learn the words in Spanish for a lot of the tools in his line of duty. So construction work, right? And we don't have a chapter about construction work. I think we actually added it here, and that's the reason why we have a construction cards now. You know, this guy, for instance, was able to just go to my vocabulary and start learning some of those construction words that he might need to use, or tools that he might need to use in Spanish or learn in Spanish. So that way he can practice those words and learn those construction words in Spanish. So, you know, like I said, that's why it's great to have that in case you want to learn something that is not part of what you're already learning through other chapters, or is not part of the list of vocabulary words that we have here for you. Any other questions about that? All right. And 27, very quickly, I just want to show you that we do have an option here. So this is my account here, but if you go to the three little lines in the top right-hand corner, that's the settings tab. This is where you can find my family profiles, right? So if you go there, every profile, so every person that creates an account with Mango, you can add up to 5 additional family profiles. So this is a way to share Mango languages with family, friends, with whoever you want to share, language learning with. So if you go there, it tells you that you can add up to 5 additional family profiles. You go to add new, and it's basically creating an account for them. So you put their name, again, you create a username and a password for them. If it is a child that you're creating this a family profile for, you can select the age. Once you do that, you go to create a profile, and all you have to do is share the username, the password with them, and they'll be able to either go to mangolanguages.com on a computer, and they'll be able to log in, start learning a language, or they can download one of the apps and log in with the username and password, and they can also start learning whatever language they want to learn. And then, by the way, when it comes to the library and the stats and usage report for the library, all the languages the family profiles are learning, it will be reflected in your stats report as well.
Okay.
So that's another thing that I want to show you. Once you have a list of family profiles, you can just go to family profiles and they will be listed here under family profiles. There you have a list of all the family profiles that you created. You can change like the username or password. You will be able to actually see what languages they're learning as well, and how much time they spend learning the language, or what the progress is, if you care about, looking into that as well. So that's another thing that I wanted to show you. I know we're running out of time, so any questions, anything that you'd like to share with me about what you just learned today?
I'm gonna go ahead and pause and stop the recording so people can ask questions unrecorded here. Just give me just a second.